What's going on? One More Thing appreciators. Thank you very much for watching these videos. This is the One More Thing Daily with myself, Dave Colombo Jenkins, updating you on all things that are happening with One More Thing each and every day at 3 o'clock, Monday to Friday. Today is Friday, and I want to drop, it's not a spicy topic, but it's definitely a topic which could have people thinking and talking quite a lot. And that's what I want to leave us on today. It was actually inspired by something that happened with Mark System and an interview that we did at Sun and Bass last month, but then we re-uploaded then as an individual interview earlier this week, and it was something that he said to me in the interview. I actually couldn't remember it at the time, but it really got me thinking, and I need to ask you this now. Is drum and bass the hardest genre in electronic music to make? Now, I say in electronic music because obviously if you want to go to like a conservatoire and study, kind of classical or any other kind of deep-rooted musical theory-based genre or movement, then obviously that's going to be a hell of a lot more complicated and is a whole lifetime of discipline. What I mean is electronic music, the type of shit that One More Thing covers. Now, I've been following and reporting on and documenting drum and bass for a very long time, like over 20 years. And I've always been, I've always admired how much of a benchmark has been set on the production side of things, like the mix down side of things and stuff, like going right the way back to, kind of the loudness of Dillinja back in the analog days to the loudness of Noisia in more recent, kind of productions and stuff, Pendulum's influence and things like that. It's like you go on and on for ages of the levels of science behind the mix downs and having everything sitting in the right place. If you watch our demo drop, which we had Tia Cahoot on the other day, last week, like he went in on so many details. So, I've always assumed, and I've always spoken to a lot of drum and bass producers and a lot of producers from other genres who try to get into drum and bass, or a lot of people who are almost getting into drum and bass but then still couldn't quite make it, so made it massive in dubstep instead, that drum and bass is by and large universally kind of agreed to be one of the hardest genres technically to make as a producer. By the way, I don't produce. I've sat in many studio sessions. I understand the terminology, I understand the approach. I ain't got the attention span like to be a producer. I do hyper focus. I spend way too long in this room, but I am not technical enough. I like the vibe. So is it even my place to be asking this question? But is drum and bass the hardest genre technically to produce? So the reason why I'm asking this is I'm going to go to a clip here now from Mark System and myself talking a couple of weeks ago back in Sardinia. Go on, that's wicked. I think this is a conversation to have at a different point because it's so deep and it could go on for ages and involve so many producers. But I actually think that drum and bass producers, when they tie their hand at another genre, smash it because of the ridiculously high levels within drum and bass. But whereas if let's say a house producer, let's say Tiesto, tries a drum and bass track. I don't know if that's ever happened or not. It's usually not very good.
No comment.
Talking hypothetically, of course. But do you know what I mean? Like, I think when someone comes from drum and bass and tries another genre, there is a different twang because it's the technical chops of drum and bass are at such a level.
For me, but I actually think there's a common misconception of through listening to loads of different styles of music and getting deeply into other genres. I realised that they're all highly skilled. Like all these genres in dance music.
Even when you're just using splice samples?
Definitely. Well, I mean, if you're using splice samples, there's less of a skill, but it's still an incredible musical ear to understand what samples to put together. But there's so much music that it's easy to discount because we don't fully understand it. We all know drum and bass really well. We understand how technical it is, and it is famous for having a really technical edge to it, and it's nerdy. But I've dissected so much other music and realised that it's just deep and highly skilled in different ways. Right, we're probably looking in the wrong places,
No, or looking with blinkers on and making assumptions, perhaps. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting take, and you're absolutely right. The more you dig into anything, nothing is clear cut in that type of way, really. There you have it. So what did he say? It's easy to discount other genres. Now, I love other genres. As a DJ, I play a lot of other genres. As a writer, I've been writing about other genres since day one. I specialise in drum and bass. I'm a nerd on drum and bass, but I can nerd out on pretty much any current genre, really. Certainly the stuff that was happening in the 90s and 2000s and the times when I was working in a magazine in the 2000s specifically, I was covering everything, absolutely everything. Hard dance, minimal techno, soulful house. And I have a good base of knowledge in all of these, but I still feel that drum and bass is particularly tricky just because of the pace of it, the loudness, like everything sitting in the right place, the way that the vocals have got to cut through if there's vocals on it. But Mark has really got me thinking. So I'm putting it out there to you guys, like maybe you disagree with my comments about a well-known EDM artist at the start of that quote. Mark System certainly said no comment, but I mean, he's in favour. He believes, and rightfully so, that every single genre has its own merit, has its own levels of technicalities, has its own state of finesse. So I still believe now that drum and bass is one of the hardest genres to produce technically. I work with Noisia every single week, or the band otherwise known as. I work with some legendary individuals who have major brains and make incredible music. That's what I'm trying to say. And I interview lots and lots and lots of drum and bass artists all of the time, Mike, and it's generally agreed that drum and bass is one of the hardest genres to produce. But is it? Like, Mark has got me thinking there. So I'm interested in a discussion. I'm interested in people coming in and going, no, you're talking bullshit. EDM is the hardest thing because of the catchy hooks or something like that. Or minimal kind of genres like minimal techno or something, like an Italian meal, you know, with all of the, 3 or 4 ingredients, but they're perfect ingredients, you know. There's lots and lots of different, it's completely subjective. But this is what I'm here to ask you. This is what I'm signing out the week with. Is drum and bass the hardest genre to produce? What is the hardest genre to produce? Is it breakcore? Is it like because of all of the crazy time signatures and stuff like that? Like, I don't know. Have a thought. Share some comments and some thoughts in the comments. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We've released Tia Cahoot's EP this week. We've dropped a huge boat after movie in favour of all vocalists and MCs this week. We've dropped 2 mixes. We've dropped some massive interviews, both Cleveland Watkins and Mark System, both out this week. And today at 7 o'clock, we will be dropping Tia Cahoot and Flo Anastasia's interview from Rampage Open Air. We've still got a whole ton of content from that festival and a whole road trip there, which we haven't even begun to start teasing you with. Plus loads and loads of other videos. We've got so much amazing stuff. Things to look forward to next week is largely the Grand Theft Audio and One More Thing EP. That is coming out in less than a week's time now. There's also loads of other interesting bits and bobs coming up. Have a lovely weekend. Peace.